¿Qué pasa, Anastasia?
Oh,
Thanks again for joining, coming to visit under the carport. And today we're going to be talking about a title that is available through our website at internationalfilmseries.com. It's a documentary on Bukowski, and it's called "You Never Had It: An Evening with Bukowski." It's directed by Matteo Borgart, and it's actually it's an hour-long documentary basically, and it's based on video interviews that were conducted back in 1981 by a producer and a journalist, Silvia Bizio. And she met with Charles Bukowski at his house in San Pedro, California. Now, for the uninformed, Charles Bukowski is a famous poet and novelist. He didn't become famous until he was in his 50s, and then he died in 1994. What should be called to attention is the fact that his this last Sunday, August 16th, that would have been his 100th birthday. So the timing is kind of special on this one. This documentary floated for a couple of years, though. It was at the Slam Dance, and then they've added a few elements to it. And what it does is it provides you with it's basically one night, really, where you are there, kind of a fly on the wall, while everyone is they're smoking a lot of cigarettes, they're drinking a lot of wine, and Bukowski is there with his soon-to-be wife, Linda Lee Bailey, and they're talking about everything under the sun, basically, from writers to sex to love, humanity. The interview was shot on Umatic tapes, and only a third of them were actually salvaged to provide this. And these were digitized and then edited along with some new shots of Super 8 scenes in LA that incorporate some of the poems read by Bukowski. So it's a very intimate look and an evening with. You definitely feel like you're sitting on the couch with Bukowski. So, and I'm just going to hand it over to you. I'm curious, do you know anything about Bukowski? Was this new terrain, and how did you feel about the doc?
I had heard his name before, but I have to admit that he was very new to me. And this doc was great in a lot of ways. I can't imagine the amount of footage that they had to go through to cut this all together. So it's just a very interesting portrait of this evening and what they were able to accomplish. I loved the different use of footage, and pairing it with the poem, I think, helped break up. So it didn't just feel like you were watching this long stream of a conversation. You had different moments to reflect, but all in all, it's a very thought-provoking documentary. It will definitely hit different chords with different people, and I think it's fun. You might hear things that make you a little...
We were talking a little earlier, but so here's if you read Bukowski, I mean, he's someone who goes into the seamier sides. He goes into the gutter. It can be very harsh. What he has to say can be very hard on the ears. But what's fascinating to me, it was the fact that he's so soft-spoken, and Michael Casey actually wrote a really nice full-page review for this documentary in last week's Boulder Weekly, and he actually said it pretty good. He said, "Soft-spoken and even, Charles Bukowski sounds nothing like his face looks," and I think that's hitting it on the nose. He's got a hypnotic, mellifluous sort of a way of speaking that captivates. So there's that. I wanted to mention though, so one of the things that happens when we show these titles and you watch them through the IFS website, and normally at the IFS we try to keep things cheap. We only charge like $6, and if you get a punch card, it's it's even less. And so here through these events, it's a $12 ticket fee, which seems like it's a little bit steep for only an hour-long documentary. But I did want to mention that this is an example of one of those titles where the distributor actually added some other things to it, so that on August 12th, the journalist and the producer and the director kind of participated in in-depth discussions about Bukowski, and then just last Sunday, they for what would have been his 100th birthday, they had Matt Dillon on, which is Matt Dillon's been in over 65 features, including Over the Edge and Drugstore Cowboy, but he was also in the film adaptation of Factotum, and so it was kind of nice to see the bearded Dillon himself interacting. And there were only like 140 people that were there in the chat room. So for some of these events, I just want to again remind folks that they sometimes come with a lot of extra goodies that kind of make them worth the price. And of course, you're also supporting distributors and exhibitors, art house distributors, who are sort of relying on these virtual theatrical on-demand screenings while we wait out our time during quarantine. So I do keep those things in mind. We got so many other titles available to screen, and do check out our website because we've got one that I think is going to be of special interest to bolder audiences, and it's going to be opening up this Friday. And it's a documentary about Rocky Flats called Dark Circle. It's a film that came out back in the like a few decades ago, but it's been restored, and it's going to have a lot of extras as well that we're going to add to that. I almost forgot. I wanted to ask you, because you were in that intro to film class that infamously had so many students that were upset over one of my favorite films, American Astronaut, when we had Corey McAbee come out for it, because they didn't like the stuff that was off color, and then they didn't feel that it had, that it hit the checklist of things that were needed. What do you think would have been their reaction to watching You Never Had It, An Evening with Bukowski?
Well, it's been a few years since I was in that classroom, but something to say about this is it is very colorful. So
you're being very diplomatic. You're being very diplomatic. How many students would have come with pitchforks?
Yeah. It's.
We'll leave it at that. Hey, I just want to say it's always a pleasure to have you, and thank you so much for discussing these movies with me. I know we're splitting a Mexican style chocolate stout. What'd you think of this one?
This one I think is a lot of fun. It's got a nice little bite at the end that lingers, and it's a good one.
Copper Kettle Brewing. So cheers to Copper Kettle Brewing, and cheers to you, Anna. Thanks for joining. And cheers to any of our viewers. And please don't forget to check out our website. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.